The desert wind carried the scent of cordite and sand, as Staff Sergeant Sarah Chen adjusted her position behind the massive Barrett M82 rifle. The weapon felt familiar in her hands despite its intimidating size, its black metal surface hot from the Afghan sun beating down on forward operating base Salerno. Around her, 24 soldiers from various units had gathered for what everyone assumed would be a routine marksmanship demonstration. General Marcus Hawthorne stood 30 meters behind the firing line, his weathered face showing the kind of skepticism that came from 3 decades of military service. He had specifically requested this demonstration after hearing reports about exceptional marksmanship performances from junior enlisted personnel. The general believed in seeing things for himself, especially when those things seemed too good to be true. Sarah kept her breathing steady as she studied the targets arranged at increasing distances across the valley floor. The closest targets sat at 800 meters, followed by others at 1,000, 200, 1,000, 800, 2,000, 400, and finally, the extreme range target positioned at 3,200 meters. Most soldiers would consider anything beyond 1,000 meters an exceptional shot with the Barrett. The 3,200-meter target existed more as a theoretical challenge than a realistic expectation. The morning had started like any other. Sarah had been conducting routine maintenance on communication equipment when Master Sergeant Rodriguez approached her with unusual orders. The general wanted to observe marksmanship capabilities across different units, and her name had come up during discussions about exceptional shooters. Sarah had tried to explain that she was primarily a communications specialist, not a designated marksman, but Rodriguez had simply handed her the orders and told her to report to the range. Now, surrounded by curious soldiers and watched by a skeptical general, Sarah felt the weight of expectation settling on her shoulders like a heavy pack. She had grown up in rural Montana, where hunting and target shooting were as natural as breathing. Her father had taught her to shoot before she could properly ride a bicycle, emphasizing patience, breathing control, and respect for the weapon. Those early lessons had stayed with her through basic training and into her military career, though she had never expected them to put her in this position. The range officer, Sergeant First Class Murphy, explained the parameters to the gathered crowd. Each shooter would have the opportunity to engage targets at increasing distances, with scoring based on accuracy and consistency. The Barrett rifles were already zeroed and equipped with advanced optics, eliminating variables that might affect performance. Weather conditions were optimal, with minimal wind and excellent visibility. General Hawthorne watched as the first few shooters took their turns. Captain Williams from the infantry managed solid hits at 800 and 1,200 meters, but struggled beyond that range. Staff Sergeant Jackson from the armored unit showed impressive skill, consistently hitting targets out to 1,800 meters before his accuracy began to suffer. Each performance earned respectful nods from the general, who took careful notes on a small pad he carried. When Sarah's turn arrived, she approached the firing line with quiet confidence that came from years of practice. She had learned early in her military career that showing off rarely ended well. But she also understood the importance of performing to the best of her abilities when called upon. The Barrett felt substantial in her hands as she settled into position, its weight reassuring rather than burdensome. The first target at 800 meters presented no challenge. Sarah's breathing fell into the familiar rhythm her father had taught her decades earlier. Inhale slowly, exhale halfway. Hold. Squeeze the trigger with steady pressure. The rifle's report echoed across the valley as the bullet found its mark dead center. Murmurs of approval rippled through the watching soldiers. The 1,200-meter target required more careful consideration of environmental factors. Sarah studied the heat shimmer rising from the desert floor and made minute adjustments to her aim point. The second shot struck just millimeters from the center, drawing more animated responses from the observers. General Hawthorne stepped closer to the spotting scope to verify the hit for himself. At 1,800 meters, the target became a small speck through the rifle's scope. Sarah took her time, feeling the subtle wind currents on her face and noting how they might affect bullet trajectory. She had learned to read environmental conditions through countless hours of practice, understanding how temperature, humidity, and air pressure could influence long-range accuracy. Her shot struck the target firmly within the scoring rings, earning quiet recognition from even the most experienced soldiers present. The 2,400-meter target pushed into truly exceptional territory. Sarah knew that successful hits at this range required not just skill but also a deep understanding of ballistics and environmental factors. She made careful calculations in her head, adjusting for bullet drop and wind drift based on years of accumulated knowledge. The shot felt perfect as it left the barrel, and the spotting scope confirmed another solid hit. General Hawthorne found himself leaning forward with genuine interest. He had seen exceptional marksmanship before, but this level of consistency at extreme ranges was remarkable, especially from someone who was not officially designated as a sniper or marksman. He began to wonder what other capabilities might be hidden among his junior enlisted personnel. The final target at 3,200 meters represented the absolute limit of the Barrett's effective range under ideal conditions. Most soldiers would not even attempt such a shot, considering it more a matter of luck than skill. Sarah studied the target through her scope, taking note of every environmental factor she could observe. The distance was so great that the target appeared as little more than a dot, even through the powerful optics. She had made shots at similar ranges during her civilian hunting experiences in Montana, where she had learned to push the boundaries of what was considered possible. The principles remained the same regardless of the target, though the military environment added pressure she had not experienced during peaceful hunting trips. Sarah forced herself to ignore the watching crowd and focus entirely on the fundamentals that had never failed her. The calculation process took several minutes. Sarah considered bullet velocity, gravitational drop, wind speed at multiple altitudes, and even the rotation of the Earth over the bullet's flight time. These factors became increasingly significant at extreme ranges, where small errors could result in complete misses. She made final adjustments to her scope settings and settled into her shooting position with absolute concentration. The desert fell silent, except for the distant sound of generators and the subtle whisper of wind across the sand. Sarah's world contracted to include only the rifle, the target, and her breathing. She had learned to enter this focused state through years of practice, where external distractions faded away and only the fundamentals mattered. Her finger found the trigger's familiar resistance as she applied steady pressure. The shot broke cleanly, and the bullet began its long journey across the valley. At such extreme range, there was a noticeable delay before impact, giving everyone time to hold their breath in anticipation. Through the spotting scope, observers watched as a small puff of dust marked the bullet's arrival at the target area. Sergeant First Class Murphy spent several seconds studying the target through high-powered optics before announcing the result. The shot had struck within the scoring rings, not a perfect center hit but well within acceptable parameters for such an extreme range. The assembled soldiers broke into spontaneous applause, recognizing the exceptional skill required for such a shot. General Hawthorne stood quietly for a moment, processing what he had witnessed. His experienced eye told him that this level of marksmanship was not the result of luck or favorable conditions. This soldier possessed genuine expertise that went far beyond what her personnel file indicated. He found himself curious about how such skills had been developed and why they had not been formally recognized. As Sarah began to clear the rifle and prepare to leave the firing line, General Hawthorne approached with measured steps. His expression had shifted from skepticism to genuine interest, though he maintained the professional demeanor that had served him throughout his career. The other soldiers sensed something significant was about to happen and remained nearby, curious to witness the interaction. The general stopped directly behind Sarah as she completed her weapon maintenance procedures. His eyes had caught sight of something that made him pause mid-step. His attention suddenly focused on a small detail that had escaped notice during the shooting demonstration. There, pinned to Sarah's uniform among her other military decorations, was a small badge that he had not noticed before. The Marksmanship badge was unlike the standard military awards that most soldiers earned during their careers. This particular badge indicated proficiency at 3,200 meters, a distance that few military personnel ever attempted and even fewer mastered. General Hawthorne realized that what he had just witnessed was not an exceptional performance under pressure, but rather a routine demonstration of well-established skills. His assumptions about this communications specialist began to crumble as he considered the implications of that small badge. Earning such recognition required extensive training, exceptional natural ability, and access to resources that were not typically available to junior enlisted personnel. The general found himself wondering what other surprises might be hidden among his soldiers' personnel files. Sarah sensed the general's presence behind her but continued with her equipment procedures, unsure of what was expected. She had performed to the best of her abilities as requested, but the prolonged silence was beginning to make her nervous. Military protocol dictated that she wait for the senior officer to speak first, so she completed her tasks and stood at attention, waiting for whatever would come next. The desert wind continued to blow across the firing range as soldiers began to pack up equipment and prepare to return to their regular duties. The demonstration had provided entertainment and education, but for most participants, it represented nothing more than a brief break from routine operations. Only General Hawthorne seemed to understand that something more significant had just occurred. The general's mind raced as he connected various pieces of information: outstanding marksmanship skills, formal recognition at extreme ranges, and a communications specialist who seemed to possess capabilities far beyond her official duties. He began to wonder what other talents might be going unrecognized throughout his command, and how those talents might be better utilized in ongoing operations. Sarah remained at attention, feeling the weight of scrutiny from the senior officer behind her. She had grown accustomed to surprise and skepticism when her shooting abilities became known, but this situation felt different somehow. The general's prolonged silence suggested that he was processing information that went beyond simple marksmanship performance. The afternoon sun beat down on the assembled soldiers as they awaited whatever development would emerge from this unexpected encounter. The routine demonstration had evolved into something more complex, though none of the participants yet understood exactly what that might mean. The only certainty was that General Hawthorne's discovery of that small marksmanship badge had changed the entire dynamic of the situation. As the general prepared to speak, the implications of this chance encounter began to crystallize. A skilled marksman, working in communications, represented an unusual combination of talents that might prove valuable in ways that had not yet been explored. The question now was how to best utilize these unexpected capabilities while respecting the soldier's current role and responsibilities. The silence stretched across the firing range as both individuals considered the significance of this moment. For Sarah, it represented potential recognition of skills that had remained largely hidden throughout her military career. For General Hawthorne, it highlighted the possibility that exceptional capabilities might be hiding in plain sight throughout his entire command structure. The stage was set for a conversation that would change both of their military trajectories in ways neither could yet imagine. General Hawthorne's voice carried across the desert silence with quiet authority as he finally broke the tension that had settled over the firing range. His words were measured and deliberate, reflecting the careful consideration he had been giving to the situation since discovering the 3,200-meter marksmanship badge on Sarah's uniform. Staff Sergeant Chen, that badge on your uniform indicates proficiency at ranges that most military snipers never attempt. Where exactly did you earn that qualification? The general's tone held genuine curiosity rather than accusation, but Sarah could sense the weight behind his question. This was not casual conversation between ranks. Sarah turned to face the general properly, maintaining military bearing while her mind raced through the implications of his discovery. She had worn that badge for months without anyone taking particular notice. But now, it had attracted attention from the highest-ranking officer on the base. The truth was complex and might sound unbelievable to someone unfamiliar with civilian competitive shooting. Sir, I earned that qualification at the Wyoming Extreme Range Championship 3 years ago, before my current enlistment. It's a civilian competition that attracts shooters from around the world who specialize in ultra-long-range precision shooting. Sarah's explanation was straightforward, but she could see confusion forming on the general's face as he processed this information. General Hawthorne had never heard of civilian competitions that pushed marksmanship to such extreme distances. His military experience had taught him to respect the capabilities of trained snipers, but the idea that civilian shooters might exceed military standards in certain areas was challenging his assumptions about expertise and training. He found himself curious about this parallel world of competitive shooting that apparently existed beyond military circles. Explain to me how a civilian competition produces marksmen capable of consistently hitting targets at ranges that challenge our best military snipers. The general requested, his skepticism evident but not dismissive. He genuinely wanted to understand how such skills were developed outside formal military training programs. Sarah took a moment to organize her thoughts before responding. The world of extreme long-range shooting was technical and complex, requiring explanation that would make sense to someone unfamiliar with the sport's evolution and methodologies. She needed to convey both the legitimacy of civilian capabilities and the serious dedication required to achieve such proficiency. Sir, civilian extreme long-range shooting has evolved significantly over the past decade. Competitors invest heavily in precision equipment, advanced ballistic software, and extensive practice time that often exceeds what military training budgets can provide. The Wyoming Championship specifically tests shooters at distances from 1,000 to 3,500 meters under varying environmental conditions. Sarah's explanation began to paint a picture of dedication and applying resources that impressed the general despite his initial skepticism. The other soldiers who had remained nearby found themselves drawn into this unexpected educational discussion. Most had never considered that civilian shooters might possess capabilities that exceeded their own military training. The concept challenged their understanding of where the highest levels of marksmanship expertise could be found. General Hawthorne processed this information while studying Sarah's military record in his mind. Her personnel file indicated solid performance in communications duties but contained no mention of exceptional marksmanship capabilities. This oversight suggested that the military's talent identification systems might be missing important skills that could prove valuable in specialized operations. How did you become involved in competitive extreme long-range shooting? The general asked, his interest moving beyond simple curiosity toward understanding how such expertise was developed. He sensed that Sarah's story might reveal insights applicable to military training programs. Sarah's expression softened slightly as she recalled the circumstances that had led her into competitive shooting. The memories involved family, tradition, and a gradual progression from basic hunting skills to world-class marksmanship that had shaped much of her adult life before military service. My father was a hunting guide in Montana who specialized in extreme long-range hunting expeditions. Clients would pay substantial fees to attempt shots at distances most hunters never consider possible. He taught me to read environmental conditions, calculate ballistic trajectories, and develop the patience necessary for precision shooting at distances beyond normal ranges. The general found this background fascinating because it represented a form of training that was both intensive and practical, driven by real-world applications rather than theoretical exercises. Hunting guides who specialized in extreme ranges would necessarily develop exceptional skills because their reputation and income depended on consistent success. What kind of equipment and training methods did these civilian competitions utilize? General Hawthorne's questions were becoming more technical as he considered potential applications for military programs. If civilian shooters were achieving superior results, understanding their methods could benefit military marksmanship training. Sarah's response revealed a level of technical sophistication that surprised everyone listening. Civilian competitive shooters utilized custom rifles built to tolerances that exceeded military specifications, ammunition loaded to precise standards, optic systems that cost more than most soldiers' annual salaries, and ballistic software that calculated environmental factors with scientific precision. The top competitors use rifles that cost between $20,000 and $50,000, custom-loaded ammunition that's tested for consistency down to individual grain weights, and computerized ballistics programs that account for dozens of environmental variables, including air density, temperature gradients, and even the Coriolis effect from Earth's rotation. General Hawthorne realized that civilian competitive shooting had evolved into a highly technical endeavor that paralleled military special operations capabilities in many areas. The level of precision and attention to detail described by Sarah suggested that civilian competitions might serve as valuable testing grounds for advanced marksmanship techniques and equipment. The conversation was interrupted by the approach of Colonel Stevens, the base operations officer, who had heard about the exceptional shooting demonstration and wanted to understand what was developing. His arrival added another layer of complexity to the situation as senior leadership began to take notice of the unusual capabilities that had been discovered. General, I've been receiving reports about exceptional marksmanship performance during today's demonstration. Is there something here that requires operational consideration? Colonel Stevens's question highlighted the military tendency to evaluate everything in terms of potential mission applications. General Hawthorne realized that this chance encounter was evolving into something that might have broader implications for personnel utilization and mission capabilities. Sarah's skills represented exactly the kind of specialized expertise that special operations units constantly sought, yet she was currently assigned to communications duties that made no use of her exceptional marksmanship abilities. Colonel, Staff Sergeant Chen has just demonstrated marksmanship capabilities that exceed most of our designated marksmen, along with technical knowledge that might prove valuable for advanced operations. We need to consider how best to utilize these unexpected capabilities while respecting her current duties and career preferences. Sarah found herself at the center of discussions that could significantly alter her military career trajectory. While she was proud of her marksmanship skills, she had chosen communications as her primary military specialty for specific reasons, and was not necessarily eager to transition into a role that focused primarily on shooting. The general seemed to sense her reservations and addressed them directly. Staff Sergeant, I want to be clear that any discussion about utilizing your marksmanship skills would involve your input and preferences. However, I'm curious about whether you've ever considered how your shooting expertise might complement your communications duties in specialized operations. This question opened up possibilities that Sarah had not previously considered. The combination of advanced marksmanship and communications expertise could indeed prove valuable in certain types of missions, particularly those involving reconnaissance or forward observation duties, where accurate shooting and reliable communications were both critical capabilities. Sir, I've always viewed my shooting skills as a personal interest rather than a military specialty, but I can see how the combination might be useful in certain situations. I would be interested in exploring opportunities that utilize both skill sets without completely abandoning my communications career path. Colonel Stevens recognized the potential value of cross-trained personnel who possessed multiple specialized skills. Modern military operations increasingly required individuals who could perform complex duties across different specialties, and Sarah represented exactly this type of valuable resource. General, perhaps we should consider creating opportunities for Staff Sergeant Chen to provide marksmanship instruction to our designated marksmen while maintaining her primary communications duties. Her civilian competition background might offer insights that could improve our overall marksmanship programs. This suggestion appealed to Sarah because it would allow her to share knowledge and skills without completely changing her career direction. Teaching marksmanship would provide opportunities to utilize her expertise while continuing to develop her communications capabilities. The prospect of helping other soldiers improve their shooting skills was genuinely appealing. General Hawthorne saw the wisdom in Colonel Stevens's suggestion because it addressed multiple objectives simultaneously. Sarah's expertise would benefit other soldiers, her unique background would be properly utilized, and her career preferences would be respected. Additionally, her teaching role might reveal other soldiers with hidden capabilities. Staff Sergeant Chen, would you be interested in developing a specialized marksmanship program that incorporates techniques and methods from civilian competitive shooting? This would involve working with our current instructors to enhance training methods while maintaining your primary communications duties. Sarah considered this proposal carefully. The opportunity to contribute to military marksmanship training while pursuing her chosen career path represented an ideal compromise. She could share knowledge gained from years of competitive shooting while continuing to develop expertise in communications technology and operations. Sir, I would be very interested in such a program. I believe that civilian competitive shooting methods could significantly improve military marksmanship training, particularly in areas like environmental reading, ballistics calculation, and precision equipment utilization. I would welcome the opportunity to contribute to enhanced training programs. The desert afternoon was beginning to cool as the discussion reached this natural conclusion point. What had started as a routine demonstration had evolved into a career-changing opportunity for Sarah and a valuable resource discovery for military leadership. The chance encounter had revealed capabilities that might otherwise have remained hidden throughout Sarah's entire military career. General Hawthorne realized that this situation highlighted broader questions about talent identification and utilization within military organizations. How many other soldiers possessed exceptional capabilities that were not reflected in their official duties? What other valuable skills might be hiding among personnel whose official specialties did not capture their full range of abilities? Colonel Stevens, I want you to work with Staff Sergeant Chen to develop a comprehensive proposal for enhanced marksmanship training that incorporates civilian competitive techniques. Additionally, I want you to consider how we might better identify and utilize exceptional capabilities throughout our personnel base. As the group began to disperse and equipment was packed away, Sarah reflected on how dramatically her military career trajectory had just shifted. The routine demonstration had unexpectedly revealed her capabilities to senior leadership and created opportunities she had never anticipated. Her specialized skills would now be recognized and utilized in ways that honored both her expertise and her career preferences. The other soldiers who had witnessed the demonstration began to understand that they had observed something more significant than exceptional shooting. They had seen how hidden capabilities could be discovered and how military leadership could adapt to utilize unexpected expertise. Several began to wonder what skills of their own might prove valuable if given proper opportunity for recognition. Colonel Stevens was already considering the broader implications of Sarah's situation. Military organizations invested heavily in training programs, yet exceptional capabilities sometimes existed among personnel whose official duties provided no opportunity for such skills to be recognized or utilized. Better systems for identifying and developing hidden talents could significantly enhance operational capabilities. General Hawthorne departed the range with a renewed appreciation for the complexity of personnel management in modern military organizations. Effective leadership required not just understanding official capabilities, but also recognizing and developing unexpected expertise that might prove valuable in specialized applications. Sarah's exceptional marksmanship represented just one example of valuable capabilities that could easily remain hidden without deliberate efforts to discover them. The afternoon's events would eventually lead to changes in training programs, personnel evaluation methods, and approaches to career development that benefited many soldiers beyond Sarah herself. Sometimes significant organizational improvements emerged from chance discoveries rather than systematic planning. But wise leadership recognized and acted upon such opportunities when they arose. As the range fell quiet and normal base operations resumed, the impact of this unexpected encounter continued to resonate through various levels of the command structure. Sarah's demonstrated expertise had opened doors for enhanced training programs, better utilization of personnel capabilities, and improved methods for recognizing exceptional skills regardless of soldiers' primary specialties. 6 months after that pivotal day on the firing range, Staff Sergeant Sarah Chen found herself in a position she could never have imagined during her initial military training. The specialized marksmanship program she had helped develop was now operating at 3 different bases across Afghanistan, training soldiers in advanced long-range shooting techniques that had previously been unknown to military instructors. The program's success had exceeded everyone's expectations, including those of General Hawthorne, who had become something of a mentor to Sarah as she balanced her dual roles in communications and marksmanship instruction. The combination of civilian competitive techniques with military applications had produced remarkable improvements in accuracy and confidence among soldiers who had previously struggled with long-range shooting. Sarah stood in the newly constructed training facility that had been built specifically to support the enhanced marksmanship program. The facility featured multiple firing positions designed to simulate various combat environments, advanced computerized scoring systems that provided instant feedback, and a classroom equipped with ballistic software that allowed students to understand the scientific principles behind precision shooting. The morning's training session involved 12 soldiers from various units who had been selected for advanced marksmanship development. Among them were designated marksmen, seeking to improve their long-range capabilities, forward observers who needed precision shooting skills for their reconnaissance duties, and communications specialists like herself, who could benefit from cross-training in multiple specialties. Private Martinez, a young soldier from the Armored Division, was struggling with environmental reading techniques that Sarah had learned during her civilian competition days. The concepts were challenging because they required understanding how multiple atmospheric factors influenced bullet trajectory at extended ranges. Traditional military marksmanship training had not addressed these complexities in sufficient detail. Private Martinez, remember that air density changes throughout the day as temperature shifts. What feels like a slight breeze at ground level might be a significant crosswind at the bullet's maximum altitude during a long-range shot, Sarah explained as she helped him analyze environmental conditions for a 1,800-meter target engagement. The teaching role had proven more rewarding than Sarah had anticipated. Watching soldiers develop confidence and competence with precision shooting techniques provided satisfaction that complemented her communications duties. Moreover, the cross-training had made her more valuable in both specialties, as each area of expertise informed and enhanced the other. General Hawthorne often visited the training facility to observe progress and consider applications for the techniques being developed. His initial skepticism about civilian shooting methods had been replaced by genuine enthusiasm as he witnessed consistent improvements in marksmanship performance across all participating units. The program had become a model for innovative training approaches that utilized expertise from unexpected sources. Today's visit was special because the general was accompanied by visiting officers from other commands who were considering implementing similar programs at their own bases. Sarah had been asked to provide a comprehensive demonstration that would showcase both the techniques being taught and the results being achieved by students at various skill levels. The demonstration began with a presentation in the classroom facility where Sarah explained the scientific principles behind extreme long-range shooting. She covered topics like ballistic coefficients, atmospheric density calculations, wind reading techniques, and the use of computerized ballistics software to predict bullet trajectories under varying conditions. Traditional military training focuses on practical shooting at ranges where environmental factors have minimal impact, Sarah explained to the assembled officers. However, as engagement distances increase, these factors become critical to success. Understanding the science behind bullet flight allows shooters to make accurate predictions rather than relying on guesswork. Colonel Harrison from Fort Campbell asked about the cost-effectiveness of implementing such sophisticated training programs. Military budgets were always constrained, and new training initiatives needed to demonstrate clear value relative to their expenses. This was a practical concern that Sarah had anticipated and prepared to address. Sir, the initial investment in equipment and software is significant, but the improved first shot hit probability at extended ranges more than justifies the cost. Additionally, soldiers trained in these techniques require less ammunition for practice because they understand the principles behind accurate shooting rather than relying solely on trial and error. The practical demonstration that followed took place on ranges extending out to 2,800 meters, utilizing targets that simulated various operational scenarios. Students demonstrated their ability to engage targets accurately at distances that would have been considered impossible before their training in enhanced marksmanship techniques. Sergeant Rodriguez, who had been among the first students in the program, consistently hit targets at 2,400 meters, using techniques he had learned over the past 4 months. His improvement from struggling with 800-meter shots to confidently engaging targets at 3 times that distance illustrated the program's effectiveness in developing advanced capabilities. The visiting officers were particularly impressed by the speed with which students could calculate environmental factors and make appropriate scope adjustments. Traditional military training had not emphasized these analytical skills, yet they proved crucial for success at extended ranges where environmental conditions significantly influenced bullet trajectory. General Hawthorne explained the broader implications of the program to his visitors. Staff Sergeant Chen's civilian competition background provided techniques and knowledge that were simply not available through traditional military channels. This program demonstrates how we can enhance our capabilities by recognizing and utilizing expertise that exists among our personnel, but may not be reflected in their official duties. The success of the marksmanship program had led to broader changes in how the base approached talent identification and development. Personnel evaluation processes now included mechanisms for discovering and documenting exceptional capabilities that might prove valuable in specialized applications. This systematic approach had revealed numerous soldiers with valuable skills that were not being utilized in their current roles. Master Sergeant Williams had discovered that he possessed exceptional mechanical aptitude that could be applied to advanced weapons maintenance. Specialist Thompson's background in competitive mathematics had proven valuable for ballistics calculations and training development. Staff Sergeant Kumar's experience with amateur radio had enhanced communications capabilities in ways that complemented standard military training. Sarah's role had expanded beyond marksmanship instruction to include consultation on talent identification and development programs. Her experience with discovering and utilizing hidden capabilities had provided insights that applied to various specialties beyond shooting. She had become an advocate for comprehensive approaches to personnel development that recognized the full range of soldiers' abilities. The afternoon training session focused on advanced environmental reading techniques that Sarah had learned during her most challenging civilian competitions. Students learned to analyze mirage patterns, interpret wind indicators at multiple distances, and calculate the effects of temperature gradients on bullet trajectory. These skills required patience and practice to develop, but provided significant advantages for long-range accuracy. Private Chen, no relation to Sarah despite the shared surname, was struggling with the concept of reading mirage patterns to determine wind speed and direction at various distances. The technique required observing subtle optical distortions caused by heat rising from the ground, then interpreting those patterns to predict wind conditions along the bullet's entire flight path. The key is to understand that mirage tells you about air movement at different altitudes, Sarah explained, as she helped Private Chen practice the technique. What you see close to the ground might be different from conditions at the bullet's maximum height, and you need to account for both factors when making your shot. General Hawthorne observed these training interactions with satisfaction, because they demonstrated how expertise could be effectively transferred from civilian applications to military requirements. Sarah's teaching methods were proving successful because she could explain complex concepts in practical terms that resonated with soldiers from diverse backgrounds. The success of the Marksmanship program had attracted attention from special operations units, who were always seeking soldiers with exceptional capabilities. Several graduates of Sarah's program had been recruited for advanced assignments where their enhanced shooting skills provided significant operational advantages. These career developments validated the program's value and encouraged continued investment in innovative training approaches. Colonel Stevens approached Sarah during a break in the afternoon training session to discuss a new opportunity that had emerged from higher headquarters. Special Operations Command was seeking instructors who could develop training programs for extreme long-range reconnaissance and interdiction missions. Sarah's unique combination of civilian competition experience and military training made her an ideal candidate for such assignments. Sarah, this opportunity would involve temporary duty assignments to various bases where you would help establish advanced marksmanship programs similar to what we've developed here. It would mean more travel and responsibility, but also greater opportunities to influence training standards across multiple commands. Colonel Stevens' proposal represented significant career advancement that would utilize Sarah's expertise on a broader scale. Sarah considered the proposal carefully because it would require balancing increased responsibilities with her ongoing commitments to communications duties and local training programs. However, the opportunity to influence marksmanship training across the entire military system was appealing and aligned with her growing interest in educational and training roles. Sir, I'm interested in the opportunity, but I would want to ensure that local programs continue to operate effectively during my temporary assignments. Perhaps we could develop a training system for instructors that would allow programs to function independently while maintaining quality standards. This suggestion demonstrated Sarah's understanding that sustainable programs required systematic approaches rather than dependence on individual expertise. Her civilian competition background had taught her the importance of documented techniques and standardized training methods that could be replicated by others with appropriate instruction. General Hawthorne joined the discussion because he had been considering broader applications for the innovative training approaches that had been developed at their base. Sarah's success had demonstrated the value of utilizing civilian expertise and cross-training personnel in multiple specialties. These concepts could be applied to various areas beyond marksmanship training. Sarah, your work here has implications that extend far beyond shooting techniques. You've demonstrated how civilian expertise can enhance military capabilities, how cross-training can create more valuable personnel, and how systematic approaches to talent identification can reveal hidden capabilities throughout our organization. The General's recognition of these broader implications validated Sarah's belief that her work was contributing to meaningful improvements in military training and personnel development. The Marksmanship program had served as a proof of concept for approaches that could enhance capabilities across multiple specialties. As the day's training concluded and equipment was secured, Sarah reflected on how dramatically her military career had evolved since that chance encounter on the firing range 6 months earlier. What had started as a routine demonstration had become a comprehensive program that was influencing training standards and personnel development practices across multiple commands. The success of the program had also validated her decision to pursue a military career that honored both her communications expertise and her marksmanship capabilities. Rather than being forced to choose between different specialties, she had been able to develop a unique role that utilized her full range of abilities while contributing to organizational improvement. Private Martinez approached Sarah as the facility was being secured for the evening. His progress over the past month had been remarkable, transforming him from someone who struggled with basic long-range concepts to a competent precision shooter who could consistently engage targets at distances that had once seemed impossible. Sergeant Chen, I wanted to thank you for your patience with my learning process. 6 months ago, I never imagined I would be able to hit targets at 2,000 meters, but your teaching methods made complex concepts understandable and achievable. Private Martinez's gratitude reflected the personal satisfaction that Sarah derived from her instructional role. The evening briefing with General Hawthorne and Colonel Stevens focused on planning for the expanded training program that would be implemented across multiple bases. Sarah's role would involve developing standardized curriculum materials, training instructor candidates, and providing quality assurance for programs being established at other locations. Sarah, your success here has created opportunities to influence military training standards in ways that few soldiers ever achieve, General Hawthorne observed. The program you've helped develop is becoming a model for innovative approaches to capability development that utilize all available expertise regardless of its source. As Sarah returned to her quarters that evening, she considered how the chance discovery of her marksmanship badge had led to career opportunities she could never have anticipated. Her civilian competition background had proven valuable in ways she had not expected, while her military communications expertise had enhanced her effectiveness as an instructor and program developer. The combination of specialized skills, teaching ability, and systematic thinking had created a unique career trajectory that honored her diverse interests while contributing to organizational improvement. Her work had demonstrated that exceptional capabilities could be found in unexpected places, and that wise leadership could recognize and utilize such expertise for broader benefit. The marksmanship program would continue to evolve and expand, training hundreds of soldiers in advanced techniques that improved their effectiveness and confidence. Sarah's role in developing these capabilities had established her reputation as an innovator and educator whose influence would extend throughout her military career and beyond. The story that had begun with a skeptical general and a hidden marksmanship badge had become a testament to the value of recognizing and developing exceptional capabilities wherever they might be found. Sometimes, the most significant organizational improvements emerged from chance encounters rather than systematic planning, but wise leadership understood how to recognize and act upon such opportunities when they arose.